untamed from breaking loose and leave the things that kept you chained. So when you find the strength to really shed your skin, all you really need to do is search within. When the road is long and hard and without end, and you feel like nothing's waiting around the bend, all good things will always come to those who wait. If you hold on to your pride and stand up straight, so there is comfort to be found in living thin. All you really need to do is search within. There's one way to walk this earth if you plan to come out alive. One step at a time with your head held high. So when you find the strength to really shed your skin, all you really need to do is search within. All you really need to do is search within.
Hey, welcome everyone. Hello. And that was Search Within by Nicholas Jones. And we have the copyright okay to play that music over the air. And so thank you, Christina, for voicing that and letting us know so I can share with everybody. Welcome to the Soul Food Book Club, and we are so excited to be here today. This is our first meeting to discuss Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And I see we're missing some people. I don't know where our Mary Lou is. I was hoping she would be on here with us today, and Jean Lorio.
She's trying to get in.
She's having some connectivity problems.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully she'll be able to break through whatever that is. And I love that song. I felt like that song was written for us because that's what we've been doing ever since we've developed this book club, is we've been searching within. And that's all we need, is to go inside and find whatever that is inside that's going to help us to understand life a little bit better. And right now we have started delving into Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. So I just want to open it up and see how everybody's doing. I don't know how far everyone is with it. I think I'm starting into parts. I'm in part 4, but just at the very beginning of that. So how are we all doing with the book? Is everybody enjoying it so far?
Loving it.
Yeah, I love it. Very colorful.
Is anybody else doing it on Audible? Is anybody else listening to it?
I am.
Oh gosh, it's great. Both ways it's great, but I love it.
It's cool to hear his voice. And when I read it, because I've already read the whole book, I could almost hear him because, the way he talks. We've all heard him before in movies. and in interviews, so I could hear his voice. But it really is neat to get the audio. You guys kind of talked me into that one. It is nice to listen to.
Yeah, I'm listening to it on Audible, and it feels to me like those words, he's speaking them the way that he felt them when he wrote them. So I'm getting like a deeper understanding of where he's coming from when he says the words, or just kind of the inflections that he puts on certain things. And I loved the story, his Australian story. Anybody besides me loved that story.
Oh, I do too.
I
Yeah,
was
good.
cracking up. The whole thing. I mean, from the get-go, I was like, this is really funny. But then when he shared with us afterward that it was kind of like a test. Like, oh yeah, they got you good, didn't they?
Yeah. And they do it every year, I guess, that couple. And the club knows it, and they're like, well, let's see who can put up with their bullshit.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine eating a head of lettuce every day, though.
With
Yeah,
ketchup.
that was strange.
Yeah. Sounds like a good diet, though. He lost weight.
Maybe I should try it.
Yeah, I should too.
I like
Well,
lettuce, but I like everything on top of it as well. So I don't know.
we'll call it the Matthew diet. I love the way he was saying that the guy was saying his name so strange. So what are you taking from it right now, wherever you're at, what part you're in? What are you getting?
The father with the rites of passage and everything, that was, but I guess that's how it was, down there in the South or whatever, that you have to earn your stripes or whatever, to be accepted by your father as a man or whatever,
That was harsh.
Yeah.
That was
Very.
very harsh. It was hard to almost read it. I know he says repeatedly in the book that he's never considered himself a victim. But boy, that was borderline for me. I guess I'm glad I didn't have to whack anybody over the head with a 2x4 and knock them out before I paint a mark in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I felt the same way. I think it was raw, very raw, like rough. And you could feel it the way he was narrating it, and the way he was reading it. Like I could visualize it very well. I had no problems doing that. So I guess I'm not as far as you guys into the book. I'm where he built a tree house. That's sort of where I am right now. But
Okay.
yeah, it's just very raw, and I enjoy reading it. And you feel for him when he was a kid and he went through all that. I felt for him. And yeah, I'm just riding along right now.
And that had to be the biggest tree house in the United States.
No, I wish there were
13 floors.
pictures. That's crazy big.
I'd like to see a picture of it.
I know. I wish there were pictures of that thing.
Yeah, I can just vision the hole in it with the ladder steps, and I can vision that. But I just like to see how wide or whatever, it was.
And 100 feet up. I mean, the mom in me was just going, ooh, ooh, oh, oh. That is really high up.
Yeah, 13 floors, that's high.
And why wasn't it spotted by like the adults?
I know. Nobody's thought, well,
House
geez.
And,
Yeah. But
I found a spot in the book on page 81, and it says day 326. And if you just read that, it was a Sunday night, my last day in Australia. The next day I'd boarding a plane home. I'd be there one day short of a calendar year. How is 326 days one day short of a calendar year?
It's Australian years.
I just want to know.
I'm telling you, you are in a former life, you had to have been an accountant or a mathematician, because I would not have noticed that until you pointed it out. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no way that's one day shy of a calendar year.
Yeah.
Hi,
so
Miss
that,
Jean.
Hi, Jean.
so I that's one question. If he comes, I'd have to ask him.
Yeah, we definitely need him on here to answer that question, don't we?
Unless he's just referring to crossing the international date line, somehow bringing that into, because you cross over, right? Maybe.
That's what I thought as well, because there are a couple of hours ahead of us, so their day goes in before.
Yeah, but there's 365 days in a year, not 326.
Maybe it was a
Maybe he was
misprint.
on peyote at the
Maybe it
time.
was a mystery.
What?
Maybe he was on peyote.
You know, he's off by
Maybe it was
30
that peyote. He was time traveling on that peyote.
Yeah, he's off by 39 days or whatever. So whatever, but it's
That must have
just
been one fun trip.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So that was, and I don't know. Some of you might not be up to, but the part with the all right, like where it came from.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think Suzanne's behind us, so she's not up to that part yet.
Yeah, I'm not there either.
All right. So we won't say anything about that.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, I'm okay. You can go ahead and talk about it. I'm fine with that.
What's Jean? Jean? You put
She's
up
muted.
a sign.
She
Can't
said
hear us?
hi.
Why can't I hear?
We hear you.
We hear you.
Oh, you are frozen. Nope.
You're
Yeah.
good. You're good. We hear you,
We
Jean.
could hear you.
Jean,
Don't worry
test.
about it. We hear you.
Yep, there's
Bye.
He's out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have someone from it's Annika from New Zealand. And she says New Zealand is way ahead of Australia in time difference. New Zealand Thursday is before Australia's Thursday even. And I know in Australia, it's like they've already had their day, so they're into their night right now. So
Right.
they're like 12 hours, I think, ahead of us. Jean, can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you. Don't ask me. I think it's time for a new computer.
I know I follow a couple of people online on YouTube that are Australian, and they're always like, hello from the future.
I always felt that way when Gabby was with us too. She'd already done the day.
Yep.
But I was
I
going
know
to
on
say,
New Year's Eve,
oops. Go ahead, Linda. I'll
on New
wait.
Year's Eve, they always show Australia first.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's how we knew we weren't going to have the end of the world when they said it, because they woke up before us. I was like, yes.
There are hope. But I wanted to add on to what Christina was saying earlier about how it was difficult to read that first part, with the abuse going on. And I grew up in a family where I had the father like that with the rage, the anger and the rage. So when I first was, and I'm listening to it on Audible. So I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is the whole book going to be this way? There's going to be violence throughout the whole book. I don't know if I can handle this, because I could just see that father because I was envisioning my own father with his rage. And it was difficult. But I think it was healing also when he brought us around to see that was the way they communicated, his mom and dad. That was their way of communicating. And we can't judge if that's right or wrong, but it was just an interesting viewpoint to see that, you know, that's the way it is. And he came to accept that's the way they do things, you know. And the same like with the rites of passage, Charlie, that you were talking about, you know, and it was the same in my family. You know, you proved that you were a man, you know, you were strong, you weren't weak, and, you know, didn't stand up for yourself and fight for yourself. So I really resonated with everything that he was sharing. My family was in Kentucky, his was in Texas, but it's that same good old boy mentality and the you know, the mountain mentality. So I resonated with that, even though in the beginning I was like, I don't know if I can listen to this with all the
See,
violence.
you're so much better of a person than me, Terry, because I'll tell you right now, any of those cases showed up in front of me on a jury, I would have totally judged that as being abuse and thrown them in jail. Seriously. I mean, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be able to read this book, to be honest with you. The first part of the book, the only way I can think to explain it is the testosterone was so overwhelming. And I grew up in a situation like that, you know, in that kind of atmosphere. And it scared me, and it still does, you know, that masculine overpower. I don't know how to explain it, but I think you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But I kept on reading it, and I'm glad I did. Well, actually, I listened to it, but anyway, because I realize there's things I have to work on with understanding men, understanding their way of thinking, their way of needing things, and, you know, which is so opposite from, well, I guess in my case, from the feminine, of what I think of as the feminine. And so like the first part, through the first part of the second, I was like this with the overpowering testosterone. And then finally it kind of abated, and I realized what he was doing. So I'm glad I kept on.
Especially with how big his dad must have been. I mean, literally, he was a football player for the Packers. I mean, he's a huge guy. To me, it was a lot of that was what I would define masculine toxicity as being, quite frankly. And the whole notion that that's what makes a man, I'm glad that we seem to be shifting away from some of those kinds of thoughts. But you're right, at the time, there was a different mentality at the time. And I'm glad that we have, as a society, has moved on from that to some degree. And I'm glad that it didn't make Matthew a bitter person or a person that would continue that cycle, because he just doesn't strike me as someone who would do that to his own children now, you know.
I wanted to say too, I think back then they got away with way more, you know, freely using the belt on kids and stuff than they would now. I don't think that would happen anymore. So we're like, oh my gosh, as a parent, but back then it was sort of halfway normal. Maybe Matthews is a little to the extreme, but you know, just the whole gist of it. Yeah, you just did more physical punishment and stuff in the 70s, 60s, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We still had paddles in school when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
They would paddle us in school. It was kind of like the norm. Not me, of course, but
I know the nuns would make people's hands bloody, their knuckles bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went 8 years of Catholic school
I went
in a
Catholic.
uniform. Blech.
My husband did the same thing.
Yeah.
But I find too a lot of people who have made it in their careers that are our age or older, they survived a lot of abuse, and they didn't. Some considered it abuse, some didn't. Some thought it was normal, but it helped create who they are and push them in their direction. Thankfully, instead of being the victim and not going forward, you know. So I guess it takes a lot of courage to do that and write this book.
Yeah, he was very matter of fact about it all, wasn't he? I mean, it was just, there it is, you know? Yeah.
And I know this is going to make me sound prissy, but the language shocked me too, because I don't read books that have bad language in them or explicit descriptions of things, you know, so it's kind of a shock for me. But
Well, did you get a little shocked, Jean, by they had that fight and then his mom and dad, and then he made it sound like they made up right there on the kitchen floor with the kids there. And I was like, what? Holy cow. Wow.
well, that makes me think that that's like a throwback to caveman days when people were wild and you know, and it just, I'm telling you, I was like this the first, you know, and a half of the book. I'm on part 5 now, you know, but, and his voice, Teri
You
knows,
only got it yesterday.
I'm having problems with his voice because I'm listening to it on
Grace, I
audio,
have to hear what you're thinking.
and he sounds like the typical Texan macho man I have around me. You know, I mean, that's the way the men
Oh, gee.
are here. And it's, I don't know, but like I say, I'm learning a lot of things about me as well as about the way men think, you know, and why I react this way. I'm beginning to understand.
The way some men think.
You're right, because Charlie's not like that, at least not now.
My husband isn't, my husband's father wasn't anything like that. You know what I mean? It was their definition of what a man is. And that's what I mean. I'm glad that now we have a little bit more of a broader definition of, you know, you don't have to flex your muscles literally in order to be a man, you
Yeah,
know?
Jean, it was highly dysfunctional.
It was, you're
Yeah.
right, that's it. It was highly dysfunctional. But that male, okay, my father, like I said, I love my father-in-law. He wasn't like that at all, but then he was from Louisiana. So there is a certain cultural, and then see, this is, I'm revealing to you my biases. In Texas, the men have to be like that. And they kind of feel, I don't know if any of you've ever lived in Texas, but
No.
men are like that here. They're very, you know, like you can kill people here in Texas and you don't really have to have a good reason. You know, maybe they made a pass at your wife or something like that and you get off, you know, because that's Texas. There's an attitude here of, well, I think you can see it even in politics. If you look around, you see the Texas attitude of that kind of dominance, male dominance.
Maybe.
I'm revealing way too much. I'm sorry, guys. You go ahead and talk.
$25, please.
Sorry, Teri, what?
I said that'll be $25.
Oh, rats. I was determined not to say that.
Yeah. really good that he kept the journals,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that helped him a lot during the, because a
Probably.
lot of men don't do journals, so
No,
that was
right.
smart of him to do it.
Yeah.
And
You
the
know-
way to express himself even back then.
Perhaps if he had written
Linda,
earlier, maybe his perspective of it would have been different. But he's older, so he's worked through all of that and made amends and friends with the past, and it's brought him wisdom and everything.
and Linda, right on with the journaling thing. Not too many young teens around. I guess Matthew's what, 50 now? McConaughey,
Mhm.
is he like
Yes.
50?
Yes. He says he's 50,
Okay, so
51 there.
all right. Well, I'm older, obviously, but if you were his age and you were probably caught journaling at 12, I think the other boys would really make fun of you.
Yeah.
I think you would be, they would label you as gay, I'm sure.
You'd be
Yeah.
ostracized.
I could just hear the words flying.
Yeah.
Especially in Texas.
Jean, you've obviously been hurt pretty deeply. And
And I
I
thought it
feel
was
for you.
over. There you go.
Well, it's like, I'm sure it's like rehashing things that you have seen, you have witnessed,
Oh,
and
One
that's
thing
got to be hard.
I like to
Especially as a
throw-
school teacher.
yes. Yes.
To
I like
me,
to-
Jean is like, she's like, I picture you almost as a nun.
That's how I see her too.
Well, everybody.
No,
thought-
she goes back a lot farther than that. She took a bite out of the apple.
Well, yeah, but it sounds like she really doesn't want to admit that she took the bite of the apple.
No,
She was a vegetarian.
don't
I,
she
I think it's
feel
what
like she has a poet's heart? I mean, the way he writes and the way he speaks, it's almost like poetry.
Yes.
That sensitivity that a poet has, being able to put words in a way that it's an emotional impact when you read it.
I think
Right, all the little captions and stuff, every couple pages of, yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
neat.
But I
I'm-
want to
I'm-
say for the audible, because Jean, how you react to how he says it. I think like at the beginning when he describes his parents, because if you imagine your parents, I could not imagine seeing that scene, my parents doing that, like with the punch on the nose and the violence that went on. And he talks so jovially about it, I guess, nonchalant. But on the other way, I think he also maybe it's self-preservance, that he had to shield himself somehow from that, because that is so often so violent. As a kid, what do you do if you see that? You have to somehow save yourself, and maybe he was putting up a shield. Now he worked through it all, I bet you. But how else would you get that across? That's so off the charts.
And as a child, that's your normal.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen
Mhm.
enough of the rest of the world and seen other relationships and dynamics, yeah, that to you is your normal. So
Gary.
And Jean mentioned that's part of the culture that his father was in.
yeah, so who are you going to go to help you in
Right.
that environment? Yeah.
Yeah, you got to
And
go
I-
within and create.
I'm just starting the book, and I'm actually only on the preface, sorry. And I just found it so interesting that he says this is an approach book. That to me is a very important resonating sentence, because he's just showing you that there are very many different approaches to people's lives and the way they start their lives. And so his was like, this is one approach. And I liked the fact that he says it's a playbook. And it's just wonderful. And to capture, I'm just reading the preface and it's very interesting. But however, to capture on what Jean was saying, I'm a person who bleeps every other word. So I don't swear. And, like I would tell my sister, if we're playing a game, I'll tell her, all right, I'll say something and you put in the swear word. So I'll say, I'm really, and then she'll put in the word. So like Jean, I think it's what we choose, but I think I'd rather read the words because I can bleep. But I think he's just fantastic what he's about to explore for us. I don't have any brothers, so all we had was my father, and he was the king of the castle or the roost. But again, it's coming from tradition, where there are many, for lack of a better thing to say, this is like we're all different tribes, and all different tribes have their own traditions, and some of them are very harsh, and some of them, that's what they only know. So maybe Matthew's father, that's all he also knew. You see, so it may have been a little bit toned down, but I think it's a great book, and I'm so glad to be in the group. So let's continue. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you, Grace.
Yes,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes.
And he
Here.
touches upon the words a little bit, that about the swear words and stuff, and that those aren't really the hurtful words in life.
Yeah.
Those aren't necessarily the hurtful ones, that there's
They're
much more.
explicit.
Yeah, and that kind of struck me too. I haven't gotten too far. I'm only into part 2 myself. But that struck me because I don't know if I think I may have said something about this, but my mom, my sister, bless her, she is so awesome right now. I mean, she's a very cool girl, but when she was a teenager, she would use the F word in front of my mom on purpose because she knew it was a button pusher for her. And finally, one day, my mom just started using it right back at her, and all that power was that's what she decided to do. She was like,
I love that.
yeah, and it just took that
Amazing.
power away from that word. But, I kind of was thinking of that when, and she was not a swearer either. My mom was not a swearer. So to hear her say that, but she's like, no, I'm not giving you that power. It's a word.
Yes.
Oh.
Amazing.
I tell you a funny story. I was telling a friend of mine, I think it was a comedy routine that someone had said that I thought was kind of funny, and and that word was in it, and I recounted the routine exactly as he had said it, and she looked at me and she says, "No," and I said, "What?" And she says, "That word should never come out of your mouth." She says, "I'm not offended by the word, but that word should never come out of your mouth." And I was very uncomfortable saying it, but you're right. We give power to words that really, we're the one giving them the power. They have no power on their own. So, but anyway, I just thought that was funny. But I think he said later on in the book, I don't know who said it, that he would never do that to his children. Somewhere I remember him saying that he would never do that to his children. So he's very aware that it was not functional, but it was kind of abnormal. So
There's something that he says. I'm sorry, I'm still in the preface, guys. And he does say that he takes his journals, and packs them and goes into the desert, right? Which I think is wonderful. I don't know if there's a lot of you who know of this, but there is a book called The Way of the Heart: Desert Spirituality and Contemporary Ministry. And it does say that when you go into the desert, he went there, I believe, for his solitude, silence, and just to sort things out and to just figure out how he's going to start, the next phase of his journey, very aware of him. So in this book, it says, by their solitude, silence, and unceasing prayer, the desert fathers show us the way. These disciplines will teach us to stand firm, to speak words of salvation, and approach the millennium with hope, courage, and confidence. When we have been remodeled into living witnesses of Christ through solitude, silence, and prayer, we will no longer have to worry about whether we are saying the right things or making the right gestures, because then Christ will make his presence known even when we are not aware of it. That's what Matthew has done through this book.
Yeah, I'm at the part where he did the solitude, where he went into the desert and he went to the Amazon, and he did a lot of that soul searching. And it was interesting as I was listening to that part of his journey where he was in his vehicle and just traveling across the country. And I thought, that's what I'm doing now. And he's already done it, darn it. But yeah, he did that. He did the soul searching.
Yeah.
And got to figure out what it was all about.
Right. Yours is a different model of travel. His is through the papers, the books. Yours is through the angel mobile.
Right. He did the physical traveling. He went into the
I found it strange that he went to the work at that all black nightclub or whatever.
I loved that.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
But that how many people from Texas would do that? You know what I'm saying? They're so. I the way I see him is prejudice or whatever. Most of the I don't know. They just come off to me as and I'm like, he went there and he worked for 2 years and the only white person in there. So it was like, wow, that takes just a lot of just to go there. You know what I'm saying? You have to be strong or whatever. These people, they had to be all looking at him like, what the hell are you doing here, white boy? Right?
They did that to him.
But
He didn't care.
that's part of the character that he had become because of his upbringing. That nothing's going to knock me down. Nothing's going to make me stop. I'm stronger than that. And he didn't care. I mean, that's the way I got it. And in Texas, I would like to kind of clarify something because I'm making it sound like all Texas people are bad. They're not. Of course, I live here and a lot of people are wonderful. There's more prejudice against Mexicans, I think, than
there.
Well, there's probably more Mexicans,
Well, absolutely. And it's that thing of someone's taking us over, someone's pushing us out. I don't even know how to explain it correctly, but that's the way they see it. They don't feel a whole lot of competition from Black people. They feel more the competition from the Mexican people. And so, it doesn't surprise me. My best friend when I was in school was Black. I mean, when I was in grade school. So I didn't find that quite as unusual, I guess, as you. I just think it's something that we,
Yeah.
I'm so glad the angels and God knows no borders.
I know, me too.
I can relate to it somehow, being a foreigner in America, right?
I agree. Mhm.
Yes.
I'm an immigrant.
Right.
Yes,
All
you are.
immigrants, that's the whole thing.
I'm only
Yeah.
first generation, so
I have a
I get it. Yeah.
American, and I know that Christina does. I'm pretty sure she has a little bit of native, and I know Terry does. But the rest of us are all I mean, our families all immigrated here.
100% immigrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
All
came?
Yeah, like-
within the last 100 years, too. I
Like-
can't even go back further than
Like I
the last
immigrated.
century.
Like I'm the immigrant. You know, my
Yeah.
one daughter is born
Yeah.
here. My older daughter is still born in Germany. My younger daughter is first generation American now. But I have to tell you, folks, Americans are wonderful. You guys are wonderful. I never, ever, ever had anybody giving me anything negative. When I come from Germany, everybody has the story to share. I never had anybody say, "Oh, what do you want here?" So I love America. I love Americans. You guys, and no matter where, I was in a lot of states. I was in Texas and I loved it there too, but I was San Antonio. Maybe there's a difference. I can only praise you. I love it here. I love you all.
I appreciate that, but I do hope we do more work, because I can tell you that I met him. I'm not even sure where this gentleman was from. No, wait a minute. I do. He was from Colombia. This gentleman was, and this was when I was with my mom. And we were literally, oh, I love Google Translate. Okay. What a tool Google Translate is, because literally this is the first time it ever happened to me, but he had sat down next to me on the bench and we were trying to talk to each other. And finally he said, "Do you mind if I use Google?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it," you know. But I had him in tears and I felt so badly about it, because I said, "How brave you are." I don't know if I would have had the guts to come over to a new country where no one spoke the language I did, where I didn't have my family and my home and everything already established. I just find you to be very, very brave. And I would like to welcome you to the United States. He started crying because he had never been welcomed by like that. And that made me take a different look at us. I mean, this just happened in last year, you know, it was February of 2020 that this conversation took place. So I'm
Thank
glad you haven't experienced that, Suzanne, but I definitely have I mean, I didn't know what to do. When this poor man started crying, I just wasn't exactly sure what to do with myself, other than to say, "It's okay. We're all one. It's okay. We're all one big family."
Oh,
Thankfully, he put it in the
yeah.
book and has made us able to talk about it.
Yeah.
We can make changes.
We can.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I wanted to say to Susan. Not, and why am I being so negative? I don't know, but you experienced that partly because of who you are, Susan.
I can't hear you.
I mean,
Repeat that.
you're white. You're probably Christian. In fact, I think you are, you know, and all those things are what we have somehow in our illusion feel like they're good things and you're acceptable. And there are people of different tribes, let me say how Grace the Isis says it, that are not as acceptable to us or have not been. But I see that changing. You know, I see that changing now. And that's what gives me the faith that there is going to be peace on earth, that there is going to be that love, you know, and look how old I am. It might not be in my lifetime, but it's coming. It is going to come. And that's just wonderful to me. And I'm really, Terry's, I hope I don't hurt your feelings, Terry. But I think it was the angels who didn't have us put the American little flags on the land blessings. Because I've always been that way where when we, I don't know how, I hope I don't upset anybody, but when we pray for our nation and our people, and I love our nation, I love our people, but I want to pray for everyone. I want the whole world to be part of it. I don't want us just to say, well, we're American. No, we're citizens of the world. We are all one. And so I think maybe the angels made you forget to put that little flag on there because knowing how I feel about that.
So we left it up to Texas.
We're all passengers on Starship Earth, period.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right, Christina.
Can I read
And we're
that
walking one
part of the
another
book?
home.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we are, Charlie. I want to read that one piece of that book where Charlie was talking about him going and working down in New Orleans,
Which page
because
is it?
it's just a little typed excerpt that he has in here.
Okay.
And it's right, it's exactly what we're saying right now. We are not here to tolerate our differences. We are here to accept them. We are not here to celebrate our sameness. We are here to salute our distinctions. We are not born into equal circumstances or with equal abilities, but we should have equal opportunity. As individuals, we unite in our values. Celebrate that.
Amen.
Bravo.
That is good.
Yep, said perfectly.
Good
I
book.
got a few, sorry, Kathy, were you gonna say something?
No, just good book.
There were a few things that stood out to me when I was listening, and I wrote them down. Just a few of his little blurbs. One is, you can go to church without having to be born again. That spoke to me really powerfully. First, I don't know if it was so much about going to church and not having to be born again, but you can be a part of the world and not have to judge it or, create these thoughts in your head. And then go back. Yeah, sometimes you have to go back to go forward, not to see where you've been, but how far you've come. And then the truth is only offensive when you're lying. That one was like, whoa.
Yeah. No, some of the quotes are like really resonate,
He says a lot about bumper stickers. I think we should each make a bumper sticker from
that
what we read in the book, not one of his, but one of the other things like what you just read, or, one of the other things he says that just really hit you. Maybe we should all make a bumper sticker by next week to see what we come up with. What do you think?
Ooh, homework, Jean.
I'll do
Go
it.
back to that teaching. Oh, come on, Jean. Come on, Miss Jean.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I do
But Miss
too.
Jean, I don't want to do homework.
Because he does have a lot of nuggets in here.
Oh,
I like there's BSers. Look at I censored myself. There's BSers and there's liars. Difference is the liar tries to hide his BS while the BSer lets you know he's lying. That's
Yeah.
why I like
Yeah.
BSers more than liars. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I do too. I never really realized that before, but I do.
I like that too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Next
Let,
week,
let everybody just pick one out and write it down.
Okay.
I
next week,
already know what mine's going to be.
you're with us, and we can hold it up for everybody to see what we are bringing to the table that we are getting from the book.
The green light isms.
the green light is. So thank
All
you.
right.
Suggestion.
And maybe we can make another video of it and send it to him.
We'll just keep bombarding him with the videos, right?
We'll do it. We'll do it during the show, and then we'll do it again after the show, and send it to
You will love us.
him.
It's not the love.
He's gonna have to after we keep sending him videos.
We'll just be Norville. Okay, Matthew, we have decided.
Is everybody, have you gotten to the part where him and his brother went to play golf and they brought the dog?
Oh,
No.
my God.
Oh,
Okay,
PGA.
I'll let you,
Oh,
Yeah.
it's good.
it was,
Next week.
Look at Kathy's giggling right out of her chair, so it must be good. Oh boy, I gotta read some more tonight.
yeah,
My laptop is on my lap, so I keep bouncing and it bounces.
Yes, I love that he's such a great storyteller, and it's made it very interesting. And I love that I'm listening to it because I get to just have these stories told to me. It's like adult story time, bedtime stories.
Well, I can see it's like being around a fire after maybe perhaps imbibing a little bit of adult beverage and just having it just feels very much like that. Like it's just talking, but being real. I've said it before with other books. I really appreciate that straightforwardness, and he's definitely straightforward.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
It's fun to get to know more about him, like you're saying, because I know as an empath, and we all are, just watching him on TV, there's more to the man.
Mhm.
He's, that inside there's a lot of experiences and things he's overcome, and you can just sense that from listening to him, that there's so much more. So it's fun to find out about some of it.
and
that
for
way.
him to be so handsome and successful and be so kind, it's a real gem. This
Yeah.
world.
And I watched the movie, the Mud one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Intense.
It almost relates like to the book, like it almost like goes with it.
I wonder
Yeah.
if he chose it because of that.
Yeah, he talks about how selective he became, what movies he was going to do. So yeah, and I think he also, I'm pretty sure that he kind of ad-libs stuff into the movies. I get that feeling.
Well, that's how it was with the all right.
Yeah, I had read that years ago that he had ad-libbed that.
Right. And that were the first 3 words that he ever said in his movie career. Yeah.
And that was supposed to be a big part, and he turned it into being in the whole movie. So I guess it just shows, don't be afraid to just ad lib things and go with the flow, and
Yeah, when your gut tells you to do something, do it.
yeah, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question for Teri. In the very introduction, there is that little sticky where he says, the sole objective is the pursuit of the singular finish with only the arrival in sight. This is what brings us together. Can you explain that a little?
I'd have to read it.
It's page 7, in the introduction.
I don't have the actual book. I have it on Audible.
Yes.
That confused me as well. And I was
Yeah.
listening to it and I still didn't understand it.
The
sole
sole
objective
objective.
Is the pursuit of the singular finish with only the arrival in sight. This is what brings us together. The sole objective is the pursuit of the singular finish with only the arrival in sight. Is that what the race is? Is this what the journey is about?
So objective.
The
It's
soul.
the
Does that
pursuit.
tie in with we're all dead? That's the end. I mean, because he does talk about that too. How we're all the finish is death.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sorry to throw a ringer, but I
When he
just
comes on this, on
That,
our
that,
show, I have to ask him about that.
that's almost like we're walking each other home to me.
see.
Very good, Charlie. I was thinking
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of him envisioning everyone going towards the same place and
Same-
reaching it all together.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
We're all
Leaving
going to
arrival
the
in
same
sight, only
place.
seeing
That's
that
our-
arrival of our full self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here to learn about ourselves,
Mhm.
the bigger picture. Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the soul, like not the sole objective, like the only objective, but the sole objective, the objective of us being
Soul.
here, being in
Right.
this experience and all the things that we're going to go through in this lifetime.
Right.
Was it a little bit maybe like we are all on our own journeys with our own perspectives, but we all end up at the same place maybe at the end?
Yeah, it's like they're
Right.
meant to
That's
reach
good
the
one.
same thing.
But if
Yeah.
he wanted to say that it's the soul, he would have said the souls with an apostrophe S.
Right. Because he's saying the aim of the journey is.
He's saying that the one objective
Right. The one objective
is the
is the finish, which is when we move on.
finish.
And
only
that's
one
what brings us together,
Yeah.
walking each other home.
With
You know,
only the arrival in
it's-
sight.
All right, Matthew, we need to come and
when I
clarify.
read that,
Really
when
do.
I read that, that's what came to me
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
very beginning, and I said, he's just saying it a different way.
So
You
are
know?
we all on Twitter? Is everybody on Twitter?
No.
Well, I will send a tweet to our Matthew
Okay.
and ask him if he will come on and talk to us and explain himself.
We have questions.
We have questions.
On over an hour, and we need to clear the channel. So let's go ahead and end the show. And we'll come back next week with probably a lot more questions, is what I'm thinking. But I love that we can come on and talk about them together and bounce them off of each other and say, what do you think? I don't know. But thank you all for coming on today. And those
Thank
of
you.
on
Thank
in
you.
the audience, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We'd love to
Thank
have you.
you.
on. We have Tammy Fisk, we have Andrea Gregg, Isabel, Anna,
Day.
Stephanie, Casey, Robert. Thank you all for joining with us on the book club today. So much
you.
love to all of you.
Nina.
And we all end our show with
Namaste.
Namaste.
I love you.
Love you.
Namaste. Oh.
Have a nice day, everybody.